Good day, I'm Liesl Pretorius, Freedom of Religion, South Africa's Head of Legal. Today I'm joined by my colleague, Michael Swain, 4SA's Executive Director. Now, we'll be discussing the new marriage bill. Now, following an extensive public participation process and nationwide engagement, the Department of Home Affairs last year published a revised marriage bill that has now been tabled in Parliament. And we've been closely following this entire process, and we will be discussing what the ins and outs of this marriage bill is and how it is protecting religious freedom, but also whether or not there are a few concerns that we need to pay attention to. So, Michael, to start us off, can you give us a bit of background on this new marriage bill?
Yes, thank you, Liesl. And we have some good news today, so hold on for that. But let's first of all say what the purpose of the marriage bill is, and that is it's to bring together into a single statute the different laws that currently govern marriage in South Africa, which basically cater for different types of marriage relationships. You have the Marriage Act, you have the Civil Union Act, and then you have the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act. And they cover different areas of marriage, but of course, they also leave gaps. And that was something which was identified at the Department of Home Affairs. And a process was started in 2019 to basically review and revise. And it started off with, of course, a policy which the government then put together and which they subsequently passed. And we were pretty happy with that because it did definitely fill in some of the gaps and it addressed some of the high-level concerns that we have. So, Liesl, maybe you could explain why we were happy with the marriage paper, the white paper on marriage.
Yes, well, to start off, we must say that as 4SA, we recognize that there are other organizations and faith groups that have wider concerns than ours. Some faith groups and organizations might be concerned about the definition of the word marriage and how it is used, referring to which types of marriage or intimate relationships. So we need to emphasize that 4SA, our mandate is that we are faith neutral, doctrinally neutral, and we uphold the right to religious freedom of all South Africans. So that is the lens through which we look at this marriage bill. So our question is solely, does the marriage bill protect and promote the right to religious freedom of all South Africans? And when we examine the original draft version, from this faith-neutral perspective, we were supportive in the way that it was trying to give expression to the white paper by separating the secular aspect of marriage from the sacred or religious solemnization aspect. It is evident that a marriage has significant legal complications, particularly when the marriage relationship ends in death or divorce. And in most cases, a couple will acquire property, and often children are born from the relationship. So the state has an interest in regulating these types of relationships and setting some minimum requirements that we believe are reasonable because they serve to protect the parties. These relate to age, consent, legal capacity, etc. We were also supportive how the marriage bill supported the expansion of the categories of people who could become marriage officers. Because at the moment, you have your state marriage officers, but you also have religious marriage officers. But the marriage bill expanded these categories to persons holding a responsible position in religious organizations. So that's already the case. But also then to secular organizations and traditional and Khoisan councils. So what this means practically is that different sectors of society will find it easier to have access to a marriage officer that serves the needs of that sector of society. And then the original version of the bill provided that religious marriages entered into before the commencement of the bill will be recognized on the condition that these marriages comply with certain minimum requirements that we believe are reasonable because they serve to protect the parties. So this is a positive development because it bolsters the right of freedom of religion of spouses in religious marriages, affording them equality and dignity. So that's the status of the original version, but now a revised version has been tabled. So Michael, can you tell us this new revised version of the marriage bill that has been tabled in Parliament, does it address some of the concerns that we had with the original version?
Yes, no, it absolutely does. And the good news is that one of the big things that we were targeting and we were involved with right from the start of the development of the policy and all the way through, and even speaking as we did around the country, is we need to have an express protection for the right of religious marriage officers to not be forced to solemnize any form of marriage that violates their conscience. And there was a point when, in the actual development of the policy, where there was a push to make religious marriage officers solemnize all forms of marriage. And of course, that is something which is completely contrary to religious freedom and also would have left the Department of Home Affairs with a very serious problem, because of the 16,500 plus minus marriage officers that there are, over 15,000 are religious marriage officers. And their viewpoint was increasingly to say, look, if you force us to do this, we will simply hand our licenses back, and then the burden is on you. And of course, it's not just a burden in terms of time, it's a burden in terms of staffing, because religious marriage officers essentially are, in that sense, working for the state for free. So the good news is that in this latest version of the marriage bill, there is now a clause that expressly protects religious marriage officers from being forced to solemnize against their conscience, religion, or belief any marriage. And so we definitely celebrate that. And of course, the concern that we still have, which is a carryover from even when we were engaged in the Civil Union Amendment Act, is that marriage officers that are employed by the state, that is obviously by the Department of Home Affairs, and also includes ex officio officers such as magistrates and even diplomatic and consulate members who are marriage officers, they can still potentially be forced to do both the registration aspect and the solemnization aspect. And our viewpoint is very simple. You do not, as a South African citizen, simply just leave your religious freedom rights guaranteed by the Constitution simply because you work for the state. In fact, if anything, the state should be the first person to uphold your constitutional rights. And so therefore, we believe that it is wrong, and something which we will continue to push against, that these state-employed marriage officers are potentially being forced to solemnize marriage. But that was, apart from that, that was a good thing. And there were some other changes, Liesl. Maybe you can quickly just take us through the other changes in this latest version of the bill.
Yes, Michael. So this new revised version also clarifies that polygamous marriages are between one male husband, and then it has been clarified that one male husband excludes husbands in a same-sex marriage. So you have one male husband and more than one wife. It does not clarify whether wife is a female wife, but we say presumably female wife. And then also this new version of the bill no longer requires the presence of both spouses for the solemnization of a valid marriage if it is not required in terms of the tenets of any custom, religion, or belief applicable to that marriage. So this proviso in particular upholds the right to religious freedom of members of the Muslim community. So Michael, the marriage bill, what happens next? How does the process look going forward?
Well, the bill has basically been tagged. It's allocated to a committee, and we presume that that committee is going to be the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs. And at some point, they will now open this up for public comment. And when that happens, obviously, we're going to alert everybody. And we particularly want people to support and say, good, let's keep it in this particular clause that protects absolutely the religious freedom rights of religious marriage officers. We need to endorse and confirm that, because, again, with bills, there's no guarantee that what is in a particular draft of a bill will become actually law when it's passed into an act and signed by the president. So things can change. And so, therefore, while this process is going forward, let's just affirm and let's bank the win. But again, we're going to definitely look at protesting and objecting to the fact that state marriage officers who may have religious convictions are not afforded the same level of protection. But in the meantime, thank you for all the tremendous support. It makes a big, big difference when we get involved as citizens in this lawmaking process, as this clearly demonstrates. So thank you very much for your participation. So Liesl, just wrap it up now and tell us what can people do if they want to just keep their eye on this and other matters.
If people want to keep their eye on the progress of the marriage bill and other matters affecting faith and freedom, what you can do is you can go to our Freedom of Religion SA website. The address is www.4sa.org.za. On the website, we have news articles, etc. But also importantly, you can sign up for our newsletter. Then we also have a Freedom of Religion Facebook page that you can follow, Freedom of Religion SA. And then we have a YouTube channel full of informative videos on this and other important matters. So please check that out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Isel, for that. Thank you for all the hard work you do. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And let's continue to stand for faith and freedom. This is Michael Swain of 4SA. Remember to like and share this video and then click on the subscribe button to make sure that you never miss our video updates on vital religious freedom issues.